Doug Ford says Canada is not for sale as he makes his case against American tariffs. We'll tell you more about his latest pitch to Donald Trump, the premier speaking just moments ago.
And beefing up security to appease Trump. We're speaking one-on-one with the head of the OPP about Ontario's border plan.
Plus, intense images emerge from the Los Angeles area as out-of-control wildfires force thousands of people to abandon everything they own.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savin.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. Premier Doug Ford will be hitting U.S. airwaves again tonight, continuing his campaign against the threat of tariffs from Donald Trump ahead of his inauguration in less than 2 weeks. And he just took questions from reporters.
Yeah, CP24's Phil Perkins joins us live from Queen's Park with the latest. Phil.
Bakari, we just finished speaking with the premier after he had a lengthy meeting with other premiers from across the country. And he gave us his itinerary over the next month. He said that he and the rest of the premiers of Canada are going to be going to Ottawa to speak with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Minister Dominic LeBlanc. He said that they're going to continue to hold the Prime Minister's feet to the fire with acting quickly. He has said before previously, prorogation doesn't mean vacation. He said Ottawa, they're still in power. They still have the ability to speak with the president-elect and try to avoid these 25% tariffs. They said that they want to come out as a united Canada. They didn't really give their strategy on any of retaliatory tariffs that they could be planning to attack or counterattack the U.S. with. He also said that February 12th, so almost a month after President-elect Trump is inaugurated, which will be January 20th, the premiers will then be going to Washington, D.C. to meet with elected officials, but they do not have a meeting with President-elect Trump right now. They're going to be talking to elected officials who hopefully have the ear of the president. The premier said that Ontario will be taking the lead to this, and he explained to us, to reporters, about why Ontario is so passionate and so passionate, and also very much taking these threats, these 25% tariffs from the president-elect very, very seriously. Here's what the premier had to say.
I personally feel they're coming hard. The president has really ramped up his talking points over the last day or two, and we're concerned. We're concerned, but we're a strong country. We're a very strong country when it comes to other critical minerals and energy and manufacturing. So we'll see how this moves, but we want ongoing conversations, weekly updates from the federal government, be it the Prime Minister or Minister LeBlanc.
And trying to avoid these tariffs, Premier Ford has been on Fox News yesterday and talking today at the Darlington Power Plant about this Fortress AMCAN, basically a deal with the U.S. to expand the energy grid, particularly nuclear energy. He doesn't want Canada to be part of the 51st state. And when I asked him what's the federal government said about Project AMCAN, he said nothing. He's heard nothing from Ottawa about this plan. This is the Premier working on his own right now to try to work that out. He said there's no leadership in Ottawa right now, which is why they're going there to figure this out. Also, have to mention that the Premier and his team, after leaving the power plant after that news, they were involved in a car crash on the 401. He said that they were in their provincial vehicle where they were sideswiped. He said they were hammered by the other vehicle. The other vehicle actually ended up on the other side of the highway. But the Premier staying pretty mum on this. He's not saying too much, but he said they got hammered on this, but then mentioned that he's okay. Obviously, he spoke with us. He had this lengthy meeting, commenting that his head is made of limestone. So he said he could take the hit. Send back to you guys.
Yeah, he also said he hopes the other driver is okay. Phil Perkins, live at Queen's Park tonight. Phil, thanks so much for this. Now, we're learning more about another initiative by the Ford government aimed at improving Canada's relationship with the U.S.
Yeah, CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us live with more on Operation Deterrence. Beatrice.
Bakari, Lena, we learned about it yesterday, and Ontario Provincial Police essentially now being involved in the plan to help bolster security at the Canada-U.S. border. So joining us now live here on CP24 to talk about Operation Deterrence, I've got OPP Commissioner Thomas Creek. Commish, thanks so much for being here. Certainly securing the border is under the purview and responsibility of the federal government, the CBSA. Tell us what your officers are doing as part of Operation Deterrence.
Absolutely. We have been a longtime partner with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and Canadian Border Services Agency. We plan to continue that strong partnership. along with our enhanced efforts. For the last month, we have been involved in highly visible patrols along the Ontario border where it meets the U.S. border. We have had ample opportunity to work collaboratively with the RCMP and CBSA, and we will continue to do so. We will continue to enhance those efforts to ensure that we're doing our part to contribute to the safety and integrity of the border.
Can you tell us, Commissioner, some specific example as to what your officers are doing? Because you're essentially hanging back from the 14 borders between Ontario and the United States. So what kinds of missions, what kinds of investigations are your officers involved in?
We've got a wide variety of activity, from highly visible directed patrols, which include our emergency response team, our general law enforcement officers that are in patrol zones each and every day, our K-9 units, other members who are in uniform who are able to pay special attention to anything suspicious, anything that looks like criminal activity, anything that requires further information gathering or intelligence sharing. We've got ongoing joint force investigations like the Border Enforcement Security Team, which we are a part of, along with the RCMP, CBSA, Department of Homeland Security. We have 3 of those teams stood up here along the U.S.-Ontario border. We have enhanced our efforts there. In fact, just last night, there were 4 arrests made for offenses related to human smuggling in the Cornwall area. We've got a joint forces operation ongoing as it relates to drug trafficking. We've got our provincial weapons enforcement team, which in Ontario this past year in 2024, over 2,000 crime guns were seized in this province. 91% of them originated from the U.S.
Commissioner, certainly this is a tall task for your service. You've got 200 officers who have now been redeployed to being part of Operation Deterrence. Is this a sustainable solution, and how long are they being redeployed for, and from which communities? Because they're usually part of municipality policing and community policing.
We're very fortunate with investments that we've seen over the last number of years with the OPP. We've been able to make our emergency response team a full-time unit, which gives us a surge capacity of 200 officers to deal with critical infrastructure security concerns like border security. We have officers that are assigned to these patrol zones that are paying special attention. So we do have that surge capacity. We also have a long-term plan in place to collaborate with the RCMP to share resources and to enhance our efforts so we can ensure that this attention is sustainable, because we have an immediate need to address public safety concerns today, but we need to ensure that that's sustainable into the future.
I appreciate that this is a political question, and your job as a police commissioner is generally not to wade into politics, Commissioner. But are you satisfied with the leadership from Ottawa that's happening to deal with the border issue?
So my dealings as it relates to federal leadership is with the Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Assistant Commissioner of O Division in Ontario, along with Canadian Border Services Agency President and Vice Presidents. I am extremely satisfied with the cooperation that we have, the interoperability that we have, and the attention that they are paying to enhancing our collective efforts to address the concerns over the border.
And final question for you, Commissioner, and we're out of time here, so I just need a very quick answer. I know it is not up to the Premier or the government to direct you what to do with your men and women. So how did this come about, this agreement, this operation?
So there's no agreement that's come about. It's a collective effort. You know, the economic security of Canada has a direct connection to public safety. If we don't have economic security, that contributes to the social determinants of crime. This takes an all-of-society approach, looking at all the resources that are available across municipal, provincial, and federal jurisdictions, and each of us have a responsibility to do our part to ensure public safety needs are addressed.
OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick, thanks so much for your time here on CP24. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lena and Bakari, back to you.
CP24's Beatrice Vaisman live from Queen's Park with details on Operation Deterrence. Beatrice, thank you very much. Right now it's 5:09, holding at 8 below zero. Let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjwin Tiayabois. Adj.
The southbound lanes of the 400. This closure has been in place since just about the noon hour. So what you're looking at, usually during rush hour, you don't see it wide open on the 400 southbound. This is because traffic on the southbound 400 being forced off at Finch for the collision cleanup that continues south of Finch. Tow is on scene, so hopefully that's a sign they're going to hook up the vehicles. OPP letting us know that all lanes should be reopened at 6 this evening. So in less than an hour, once that happens, we'll let you know, because this backup pretty severe. It extends from before Highway 7. Also impacted is the eastbound Highway 7 on-ramp to the southbound 400. They've shut down that ramp. That's creating all sorts of delays. And only one other issue that cleared. We had issues on the southbound lanes. Just through Lawrence. It was a stall. It was in the right lane. It cleared. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Adjoa, thanks so much for this. Well, police have made an arrest in a double murder in Etobicoke that happened more than 3 years ago.
A 34-year-old Philip Grant was arrested today in Mississauga by members of the OPP Rope Squad, Windsor Police, and the Toronto Police Emergency Task Force. He's charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder and weapons offenses. On January 3rd, 2022, police were called to a shooting on 30th Street, south of Horner Avenue. They found 2 men had been shot, both of them ages 20 and 24. They were later pronounced dead in hospital. A woman was found hurt at the scene, but her injuries were not life-threatening, and Grant was identified as a suspect in August of that year. And this past September, the police learned that he was in the Greater Toronto area.
A former Toronto police officer has been charged with a historic sexual offense.
The SIU says that it was notified of the allegations last March. The alleged incident occurred in Toronto between 1981 and 1982 against a female victim when the officer, who has since retired, was a member of the Toronto Police Service. Luigi Di Lorenzo is charged with 1 count of gross indecency and is scheduled to appear in court February 5th.
Well, police have made 5 arrests and recovered 4 semi-automatic handguns as part of a drug investigation in Scarborough.
Investigators say that 2 of the loaded firearms were found when a search warrant was executed at a home in the Eglinton and Midland area on Monday. 2 of the guns had high-capacity magazines. 1 was capable of being converted to automatic fire. A quantity of methamphetamine and cocaine was also seized. 3 men, a woman, and a youth, they're all facing multiple weapons and drug charges.
Time now is 5:12, sitting at -8 tonight, and you are watching Live at 5.
And the path to replace Prime Minister took another step forward today. We're going to have the latest from Ottawa coming up.
Welcome back. Liberal MPs gathered in Ottawa today for their first national caucus meeting since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that he will be stepping down. It comes as party officials also meet this week to answer burning questions about the upcoming leadership contest.
CP24's Andrew Brennan is following the story and joins us from the newsroom. Andrew.
Alina Bakari, when we talk about what's going to happen next, we don't really have a modern roadmap for something like this. It's almost unparalleled. But we do know, based on what was going to be happening in this meeting today, and also with the Liberal, with the National Committee looking to see what the rules are going to be, that there's a lot of answers that need to be found very quickly. Namely, what rules are going to be in place for this leadership race, how long is it going to be, but also who's going to be able to cast a vote. Now, going back to the last leadership race, when Justin Trudeau was ultimately, with handily 80% of the vote, I should say, winning that race, there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of new Liberal Party members that were enlisted during that race, some as young as 14 years old because of the rules of 14 or older, and even if they're not a Canadian citizen, they'd still be able to cast a ballot in not only a leadership race, but now a race that would ultimately probably decide who's going to be the next prime minister, even if only for a day. Now, in terms of who actually might be running to replace Justin Trudeau, we've been hearing a lot of maybes, and I'm thinking about it from various cabinet members and outside the party, like Mark Carney. Here's one of those potential candidates.
Over the past few days, I've received a lot of support from across the country. And of course, I've met with my team many times, my core team. And I've been reflecting. And in the context of my reflection, of course, I very much know that I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs at a time where it's extremely difficult with the American administration, the incoming one. And so that's why I'll continue my reflection.
And one person who has done some reflection and looking in the mirror saying no is Dominic LeBlanc, the Liberal MP, a longtime Liberal MP since 2000, saying ultimately he's not going to be trying again. He did run in 2008, but ultimately lost to Michael Ignatieff. Actually, he dropped out. But he says no, he's not going to be running this time, but he will support whoever ultimately leads the party and the country for, if only, a day. Back to you both.
All right, waiting for some other high-profile announcements. Andrew Brennan reporting live from our newsroom tonight. Andrew, thanks so much. You're watching Live at 5.
Well, coming up, we're going to go to California. This is where a series of wildfires rage out of control in the Los Angeles area. We'll bring you the latest on that developing situation next. We are keeping a close eye on deadly wildfires south of the border. They continue to burn out of control. This is all across the Los Angeles area.
And CP24's Lindsay Biscaya joins us live now from our newsroom with the latest details. People have had to abandon their homes. They've even had to abandon their cars, Lindsay.
Yeah, people have had to basically abandon everything, Lena and Bakari, and get out. That is the message from officials while fire crews try to battle these 4 separate wildfires that are raging around LA County in Southern California. And these are the most destructive wildfires that LA County has ever seen, and they're far from over yet. So we know at this point about 155,000 people remain under an evacuation order today. It's been confirmed 2 people have died in these wildfires. Thousands of structures have been burned. But the issue now is actually trying to get these fires under control. They are at this point 0% contained. And firefighters say that that is because of very strong winds is one of the main issues that fire crews have been dealing with over the past 24 hours and will continue to deal with into tonight as well. Those gusting winds make it really hard for fire crews, for planes overhead to actually try to, do what needs to be done to get these fires under control. Also, staffing. We've heard from fire crews in LA County saying that they don't have the amount of people to deal with these 4 separate fires. Maybe 2 to 3 they could handle, but this is a lot of separate wildfires in this area that has to be contained. At this point, that is still one of the main struggles. So we heard from fire officials today. Here's more on what they had to say.
We have over 2,000 acres burning at this time, and the fire continues to grow with 0% containment. We have over 500 personnel assigned, and unfortunately, we have 2 reported fatalities to civilians. Unknown cause at this time, and we do have a number of significant injuries. We have over 100 structures destroyed, and the cause of the fire is unknown and under investigation.
We want to make sure that everybody understands we are absolutely not out of danger yet. With the strong winds that continue to push through the city and the county today, I would tell you, and we are all committed to our first responders, our firefighters will remain focused on protecting lives and property.
So we're continuing to follow this fire. Lena and Bakari, we've been reaching out to people who are in the area, trying to hear from them firsthand, and we'll let you know if we get those stories. But for now, back to you.
Okay, CP24's Lindsay Biscaya reporting from the newsroom. Lindsay, thanks for the update. Right now it's 5:21, holding at 8 below zero. This is Live at 5.
Speed cameras in the city targeted once again by vandalism. We're on the latest location and the cost to repair them. Stay with us. Welcome back. The city is looking to connect those experiencing homelessness with shelter spaces as 2 surge warming centers stop accepting new admissions.
Yeah, 2 additional warming sites were opened as temperatures dipped below -15. But with the forecast rising, the centers are no longer accepting new people. There are still 5 other warming centers open across the city. Mayor Olivia Chow and city staff have said the shelters are full every night, and they often turn people away. But with the colder temperatures, they are trying to find spaces for everyone.
Well, vandals continue to target the city's speed cameras, with one on Avenue Road near St. Clair, the latest to be damaged. Now, according to the city, a dozen of the costly cameras were damaged beyond repair last year.
Okay, CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live with the latest. Steve?
Yeah, Bakari and Lena, the camera that Lena was referring to that was vandalized is the camera here on Avenue Road. Police believe that it was damaged sometime between last Thursday and last Friday. Now, it was rendered inoperable until today. While we were here today, repair crews arrived on scene and they took down the damaged camera and put a new one in. As you can see, it's up and fully functioning right now. Now, this comes just a week after we had reported that the Parkside Drive camera, the one near High Park and the lakeshore, that was damaged 3 times. Now, these cameras are strategically placed around the city where the data shows that more of the speeders are speeding. This street here on Avenue Road clearly is one of them. And if the car is identified through the cameras, it's not the driver that gets the offense notice. It's the registered owner. And that's because you clearly can't identify who the driver of the car is. These cameras are put into place not to punish people for demerit points, but to act as a deterrent to get people to slow down. So that's the latest from this location. The police are looking for witnesses. So if you were in and around the Avenue Road area at around 8 or 9 o'clock last Thursday into Friday, you are being asked to give the police a call. I'll send it back to you guys.
All right. So much for this. Well, the Raptors will try to snap a 2-game losing skid when they visit the New York Knicks tonight.
Shot clock at 5. Barnes turning. Over top.
The Knicks won the last time they played. That was just over 2 weeks ago. The Raptors continue to struggle. They're now 14th in the East. The Knicks have lost 3 in a row, but they're still holding on to 3rd place in the Eastern Conference. Tip-off at Madison Square Garden is at 7:30.
Well, the nominations for the Screen Actors Guild Awards are out, and a musical is leading the pack of contenders.
Are people born wicked?
Yeah, Wicked has earned 5 nods, including Best Ensemble. Stars Cynthia Erivo, Ariana Grande, and Jonathan Bailey. They are in the running for individual honors as well. And the Bob Dylan biopic, A Complete Unknown, also had a strong showing with 4 nominations, including Timothée Chalamet, who's up for Best Male Actor. The awards are set to be handed out February 23rd in Los Angeles.
Wicked was so good. Well, new research shows coffee drinkers, they have a lower risk of premature death. But the timing of when you drink your coffee, that really matters.
Well, the study published in the European Heart Journal found that those who only drank coffee in the morning had a 16% lower risk of premature death from all causes compared to people who didn't drink coffee. And the study also found that morning coffee drinkers had a 31% lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. This is regardless of how much coffee they consume. Those who drink coffee all day, they didn't have a reduction risk at all.
Okay, so have your morning cup of joe in the morning. Good
Every
to know.
day.
Noted. 528 -8. You're watching Live at 5.
And Premier Doug Ford speaking to reporters this evening as his government continues to push back against tariff threats from Donald Trump. The very latest coming up. Doug Ford says Canada is not for sale as he makes his case against American tariffs. We're going to tell you more about his latest pitch to Donald Trump.
And the clock is ticking on the Liberal leadership race. We're going to tell you everything you need to know about a caucus meeting in Ottawa today.
Plus, intense images emerge from the Los Angeles area as out-of-control wildfires force thousands of people to abandon everything they own.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Thank you for joining us here on Live at 5. Premier Doug Ford continues to speak out against the threat of tariffs from Donald Trump. He just spoke at Queen's Park earlier this hour.
Yeah, CP24's Phil Perkins joins us live from Queen's Park with everything and a little bit more. Phil.
Yeah, absolutely. Premier Ford has been very busy, guys. He was on Fox News yesterday with Jesse Waters talking about his Fortress AmCan. And then today, this afternoon, he got off a call with the premiers of this country, and they gave us their itinerary for the next month or so. They're going to be going to Ottawa next Wednesday to speak with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Dominic LeBlanc. They want to come out as a united Canadian front against President-elect Donald Trump as he continues to threaten not just these 25% tariffs, but now acquiring Canada, making it the 51st state. And so they want to come out as a united front here. They didn't give us really their game plan or what their strategy will be to fight against these tariffs. Could there be retaliatory tariffs? Premier Ford said potentially, but didn't want to give us any details. Also, February 12th, the premiers are going to be going to Washington, D.C. They're going to be speaking with elected officials. Premier Ford in the province of Ontario, they're going to be leading that front, but they do not have a meeting with President-elect Trump. By by that point, he will be President Donald Trump. But Ontario taking the lead here, and they're hoping to speak with these elected officials who might have the ear of the president, who continues, as I mentioned, to talk about having Canada being the 51st state. He wouldn't use military means, but would use economic means. But Premier Ford said he's hearing a very different tune from other U.S. elected officials. Here's what he had to say.
Every premier has their responsibility, no matter if it's the Western governors, Midwest governors, East Coast governors. Everyone's contacting their counterparts down in the U.S. And as I've been saying over the last little while, I'm not hearing the same tone from governors and senators and congresspeople, and my fellow premiers aren't hearing the same tone as well. So I think there's a little split down in the U.S., president saying one thing and elected officials are thinking something opposite.
And Premier Ford has been trying to strike a deal through television interviews with Jesse Watters yesterday on Fox News, talking about his Fortress AMCAN to try to expand the energy grid with Canada and the U.S. When I asked Premier Ford, have you heard any feedback about this Fortress AMCAN from the Prime Minister or Dominic LeBlanc? And the Premier flat out said no, he hasn't heard anything about it. So hopefully maybe he'll bring it up next Wednesday to try to get some direction on at least one idea that the Premier has to try to evade these 25% tariffs. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Phil, the Premier's really been taking on the role of Captain Canada. As you noted, he was on Fox News yesterday. Yep. He's making an appearance on CNN tonight. He'll be chatting with Anderson Cooper. He talked about filling that role and the lack of leadership in Ottawa today. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I asked him about that. When I asked him, has the federal government said anything, given you any feedback about this Fortress AMCAN that he's been talking about for months now? Again, he said it on Fox News yesterday a couple of times. He said it today at a power plant in the east, just east of Toronto. And he said that the federal government hasn't said anything. And he said outright, there's no leadership right now out of the federal government. But he did tip his hat to Dominic LeBlanc. He said that he has been integral in some of these talks, and he is glad at least that he is in Ottawa right now working alongside the Prime Minister, from at least judging from other premiers saying not really communicating much. Back to you two.
All right, Phil Perkins live at Queen's Park tonight. Thank you, Phil.
Well, Premier Ford is okay after a collision on the 401 in Pickering today. OPPF confirmed that the Premier and his staff were involved in a crash with another vehicle in the westbound lanes of the highway near Brock Road. The driver of the other vehicle sustained non-life-threatening injuries.
We were leaving OPG, driving down the road on the highway, and next thing you know, out of nowhere, the car got sideswiped, and that's all I can say. I'd have to refer this over to the OPP, but we were just driving straight. Next thing you know, you got hammered, just hammered.
An investigation into the cause of the crash is ongoing.
Well, Liberal MPs gathered in Ottawa today for their first National Caucus meeting since Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that he's going to be stepping down. It comes as party officials are also meeting this week to organize the upcoming leadership contest.
And there's lots of questions about that leadership contest. CP24's Andrew Brennan is taking a look at all those possibilities and what Canadians want to know. Andrew.
Yeah, I think Canadians want to know a few things. One, what's happening? How long will it take? And ultimately, when they're going to be going to the polls. And probably a few other things, but we'll keep the list short. Now, you did mention already that the Liberal Party is looking to see what rules are going to be in place. Let's go back to 2011 and the rules that were then a part of the Liberal Party leadership race then and are still in the books right now. Anyone 14 and over, and also doesn't have to be a Canadian citizen, by the way, but just someone who lives most of the time or predominantly in Canada, they can sign up as a Liberal Party member and then vote for the leader. But in this case, because of how things seemingly are shaking out, as the man at the center of your screen ultimately leaves the party, he's also prime minister. And whoever replaces him, unless an election happens before Justin Trudeau resigns, which doesn't seem to be in the cards, then ultimately that person would become the next prime minister. There is a short list already of people that have either said they're considering, or the rumor mill on the Hill has been consistently saying are eyeing a run. You have people that are currently within cabinet. Do they have to give up their roles in order to be able to run? But you have people like, for instance, Mélanie Joly or François-Philippe Champagne or Anita Anand. They are potentially signaling that they are going to be running. and a few other people. But that is still a short list. Here's more from Rob Oliphant.
I would like to have a leader in place by March 2nd. That is, and I think we can do it. This is 2024. We have processes in place where we can have very quick membership sign up and very quick way of having people appear with each other on social media and on virtual performance, that kind of way of doing things. So I think we can do it. I think it'll be fast. I think people know who the candidates are. We've got a good stable of 4 or 5 candidates, and I think any one of them could do well.
Well, at least the people in the meeting today may know who they are. They probably have a short list. The other thing that's going to be happening, and definitely did happen as part of this meeting, Lena Bakari, is, to borrow the analogy of the Game of Thrones, someone needs to sit atop the chair. And ultimately, right now, a lot of negotiating either in person or along the sidelines are happening from these perceived frontrunners. Back to you.
Good way to put it, Andrew. Thanks so much for this. 5:38 now, sitting at -8 in the city. Let's get a check on that drive home with CP24's traffic specialist Adjoa and CIA Abwa. You've been keeping an eye on a number of situations tonight, Adjoa.
I have, and the most recent one that's been with us for actually the last couple of hours is the southbound 400. It's the collision cleanup that happened at around the noon hour. So southbound 400, this is just as you make your way south of Shepherd. Still all lanes are off limits following this collision cleanup, and that estimated time of reopen remains 6 o'clock. So that's less than 30 minutes. Also, this is what it's doing to the drive. It's been closed, the southbound 400 has, from Finch. That's where drivers are getting forced off the highway. And the big backup is still there from well before Highway 7. Your best alternative around this is Keele Street. Jane and Weston are very, very slow going. And if you're traveling towards the Gardner, it's pretty busy exiting the downtown core. But at least it is checking in problem-free. I'll send it back to you both.
All right, thanks a lot, Adj. Well, continuing our look at the road, vandals are still targeting the city's speed cameras, with one on Avenue Road near St. Clair, the latest to be damaged.
Yeah, according to the city, a dozen of the costly cameras were damaged beyond repair last year. CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live with more. Just how much does it cost to repair these things, Steve?
Well, the cost to repair one of those cameras is significant, Lena. But of note, interesting, that the city does not pay for those repairs. That cost falls on the vendors of these cameras, and there has been many of them that have been vandalized within the last 18 months. So the latest one we're talking about is a camera here on Avenue Road. Toronto police believe that it was intentionally vandalized either last Thursday or Friday, and that camera was rendered inoperable up until today. Earlier this afternoon, repair crews were on scene. As you can see, a new box is put into place and the damaged one was taken away. Now, this comes just a week after the Parkside Drive camera near High Park. That was damaged 3 times. So people certainly are expressing their displeasure with these cameras, but they do serve a purpose, rather, and that purpose is a deterrent to speeders. These cameras were placed in strategic areas throughout the city where the data showed that these areas had the most speeders. Now, the person that gets the ticket for this type of offense is the registered owner of the vehicle, not the driver, because you can't identify the driver, obviously. So they just go on the license plate. And there are no demerit points for this offense as well. It's just more of I wouldn't say a cash grab, as people say, but it's one of those instances where it's going to cost you some money, and maybe that will be a deterrent for you and for others as well going through these speed areas. And lastly, the offense that's committed when you intentionally vandalize something that is not your own is mischief, either over $5,000 or under $5,000. And that's the investigation going on right now with Toronto Police. I'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, thanks a lot. It's 5:41, feeling like 16 below outside. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, we hear from the OPP commissioner about how his members could play a role in enhancing border security. CP24's Beatrice Faisman has that conversation next. Welcome back. We are learning more about another initiative by the Ford government tonight aimed at improving Canada's relationship with the U.S.
CP24's Beatrice Faisman joins us live with more on Operation Deterrence. Beatrice.
But Carolina, we learned about Operation Deterrence yesterday from the Premier and his government, where they talked about the fact that some 200 OPP officers were being deployed down to the Ontario-U.S. border, essentially to bolster security down at the border. Their goal would be to help the RCMP, help the CBSA, and essentially just be away from the 14 areas where there's a land border between Ontario and the States. What these officers would be doing, things like manning drones, using aircrafts, helicopters, marine vessels, foot patrols, really focusing on a number of items. One, human smuggling, and the OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick telling CP24 just yesterday there were 4 arrests for human smuggling down in Cornwall, but they're also focusing not only on drugs crossing the border, but on guns as well. The vast majority, more than 90% of guns coming into Canada are coming from the United States. So as part of a collaborated effort between police services right across the country and here in Ontario, along with partners stateside, U.S. Homeland Security, there's a concerted effort on trying to strengthen that border. That's one of the key demands that was issued by the U.S. president-elect. And so here's a bit of my conversation with OPP Commissioner Thomas Carrick on exactly what his officers are doing.
From highly visible directed patrols, which include our emergency response team, our general law enforcement officers that are in patrol zones each and every day, our K9 units, other members who are in uniform who are able to pay special attention to anything suspicious, anything that looks like criminal activity, anything that requires further information gathering or intelligence sharing. We've got ongoing joint force investigations like the Border Enforcement Security Team, which we are a part of, along with the RCMP, CBSA, Department of Homeland Security.
We heard Premier Doug Ford today say he didn't feel like there was leadership in Ottawa, specifically on the border issue. I asked the OPP commissioner whether he felt as though there were leadership from the federal government. He says he takes his commands and his collaboration from the RCMP, who's the lead in this collaborative effort, and he's satisfied with the direction he's getting, but certainly a tall effort and tall tale to try to protect the border between Canada and the U.S., specifically Ontario and the U.S. Back to you.
Is Donald Trump? That's the big question. Beatrice Vaisman reporting live tonight. Thanks for this, Beatrice. It's 5:46 now, -8. You're watching Live at 5.
And we're following a developing situation in California. This is where out-of-control wildfires have destroyed neighborhoods in the Los Angeles area. Okay, south of the border to the deadly wildfires, which continue to burn out of control across the Los Angeles area right now.
And Lindsay Biscaya joins us live now from our newsroom with the very latest. We know crews have said this is a really challenging effort, Lindsay, and those winds, they are relentless.
Yeah, the winds are really a big part of that challenge, Lena and Bakari. We are trying to track this, obviously, from where we are, but this is one of the most destructive fires ever in LA County, and fire crews definitely having a hard time trying to get this under control. So we're talking about, so far, it's been confirmed, 2 people have died as a result of these fires. Thousands of structures have been destroyed, and hundreds of thousands of people are on evacuation alert in that area. But as you mentioned, fire crews saying that the really strong gusting winds are the reason that all 4 of these fires are 0% contained at this point. And we heard from fire officials today a little bit more about that. Take a listen.
The National Weather Service has predicted a continued red flag weather event with strong winds and low humidities, placing all residents of Los Angeles County in danger. To all of our viewers, please prioritize your safety as well as the well-being of those around you as we come together to continue to get through this widespread disaster.
I look at the people who were out there on the line last night. The winds were like something that I have never seen before. Firefighters, police officers, deputies, they're out there sheltering in their vehicles, their trucks and their cars so that they don't end up getting burned from the fire that was being driven by 75+ mile-an-hour winds. They were there until they could get out of the car and go back to doing their work. As you can imagine, a very difficult circumstance to deal with.
most events around the city and in that county area, Lena and Bakari, have been postponed or canceled. We're talking about Hollywood red carpets. We're talking about the LA Kings game that was supposed to happen tonight, a home game that's all been canceled, postponed. The main goal here is to really get everyone out of that area because obviously wildfire smoke as well, incredibly hazardous and dangerous to your health. As I mentioned off the top, this is the most destructive fire so far in LA County. It doesn't look like those winds are about to slow down tonight. In fact, they're about to get even stronger. So really the struggle here continues for fire crews who are really trying to put out these fires. Back to you.
And 4 wildfires across the region are 0% contained. So as you noted, relief not on the way just yet. Lindsay Biscaya live in studio tonight. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, people who lost loved ones in the downing of Ukrainian Airlines flight PS752 gathered in Richmond Hill today to mark 5 years since that tragedy.
Every day they just miss their dad. Every day just crying and just say, where are your dad?
The Iranian regime did this intentionally. And we would like to see who ordered it, why they ordered it, and why they did it.
176 people were killed when the plane was shot down by the Iranian military shortly after taking off from Tehran en route to Kyiv. Days after the attack, Iran admitted it was responsible, but claimed Iranian Revolutionary Guards mistook the passenger jet for an American cruise missile. Prime Minister Trudeau attended the vigil this afternoon, where he continued to call for justice.
The path to justice is long. We have to keep working with our partners internationally and international institutions to hold the Iranian regimes accountable. We have to do that for many reasons, but top of my mind is, first of all, because justice is necessary to bring at least some semblance of closure. When you know that the perpetrators of this horrific act still walk free, are still free to oppress and murder their own citizens, to have a terrible impact around the world, you must and you will continue to strive for that.
Canada has continued its calls on Iran to take full responsibility for the downing of that flight, including making reparation for the harm caused to the victims' loved ones.
It's 5:53, holding at 8 below zero. This is Live at 5.
Pride Toronto unveils some details about this year's upcoming festival. We'll tell you more about that next.
A potential strike has been avoided at Ontario's colleges.
The College Employer Council and OPSEU have agreed to enter binding arbitration with full and part-time professors, instructors, and librarians. The college faculty had been in a legal strike position since Saturday and had been back at the bargaining table this week. A new contract will be ruled on at a later date by an arbitrator.
Well, according to a new report, the luxury housing market in the GTA had double-digit growth in the last quarter of 2024.
Yeah, these numbers are really interesting. RE/MAX says the number of homes that sold for more than $3 million was up just over 40% year over year. And the number of homes that sold for more than $5 million jumped over 58%. And sales of homes for more than $7.5 million was up more than 41%. RE/MAX says 250 basis point interest rate cuts helped jumpstart demand in the luxury housing market. Here's more on that tonight.
There's a number of factors. First and foremost, the drop in interest rates that you mentioned really accelerated activity in that segment of the market. Buyers in the ultra premium finally had some choice. Inventory was so tight for so long, and people were on the sidelines, a lot of pent-up demand, and finally they had the opportunity to find the home of their dreams. And the stock market has performed exceptionally well over the course of 2024. And you couple all that together, and including some other outside factors, and it turned out to be a very robust luxury market in the fourth quarter.
So I sat down with Christopher Alexander, the president of RE/MAX, asked him if this is something they were anticipating, and he said, no, it sort of caught the market by surprise, and says these numbers are fascinating. They're waiting to see if this trend will continue into 2025. RE/MAX also says it expects to see an active overall housing market in this new year.
Well, Pride Toronto has announced its theme for this year's festival.
Yeah, All In is said to be a call to solidarity, a rallying cry for connection and a celebration of shared strength in the face of today's challenges. The goal of the theme is also to honor the energy and spirit of those who have fought for social progress. And it's a reminder that no one is alone in this journey. I mean, Pride is about celebrating, but it's also about looking back, about having meaningful conversations, of course. And that's what this theme is about. The entire month of June, we'll see Pride events across the city with the main festival weekend from June 26th to the 29th. That's always a busy time.
Right now it's 5:59, holding at 8 below zero, but feeling more like 16 below. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thanks so much for watching. CTV News at 6 is coming up next. We'll see you at 7.